Well, hello. We'd like to welcome you to the Life-Changing Word. So happy that you tuned in today's program. You're going to be doubly blessed by today's program because we have two guests instead of the normal one. On today's show, we have Pastor Bob Rufner, who's been on here quite regularly.
Yes.
And on the other side, I have my other good friend, Pt.1, who's been on here quite a bit, mainly singing, but if you've been watching for the last couple of weeks, you saw the testimony about the awesome things, how God has done some exciting things in Peter's life. So I'm just happy you could be here today, Peter.
Good to be here.
Today, I thought we'd talk about something maybe you don't hear people talk a whole lot about, when we become Christians, one of the things, the messages, and we've touched on this a little bit before, is that it's a message about getting to heaven. Mm-hmm. But becoming a Christian is way more than just about getting to heaven. Heaven just kind of happens to be the icing on the cake, so at the end of the party, the cool thing that happens at the end. But the thing I really want to take a look at today, and we could talk a little bit about, is going back and looking what originally, when God created Adam and Eve, the way He created them and set them in the Garden of Eden, and what all was taking place there. So I thought maybe we'd kind of start there in Genesis today and see where it goes.
Mm-hmm. That sounds like fun.
Let's take a look in the Bible.
I have mine.
I'll have a loner.
Oh, man. What are we going to do with you, Peter? If we start in Genesis, and I'm just going to skip through a little bit here, we'll see that when God started, it says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was on the face of the earth, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters, and then God said, let there be. And as we read on down through there, you'll see God said, and every time He said, He saw.
Yes.
So God was speaking things into existence. And when He had all the things made there, in verse 26, He said, let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on earth. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God He created him, male and female He created him. And then God blessed him and said, be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. And God said, see, I have given you every herb that yields seed, which is on the face of the earth, and every tree whose fruit yields seed. To you it shall be food for you. When God created Adam and Eve, He placed them in a place called the Garden of Eden. Mm-hmm. And He gave them authority in that place. And we always talk about authority as believers, don't we, quite a bit?
Yeah, we really do. And because it's an important understanding that we need to have when we come to Jesus.
Yeah, but I think one of the things we fail to realize is when you see in there it says, I gave them dominion. So dominion becomes a them thing. It's not just a single person thing. Mm-hmm. Authority has been given to each and every one of us over our lives and the things that affect our lives, where the enemy comes against us, where we have authority to bind the devil, as we've talked about, to loose and to speak to those things. But dominion is an us thing, is a them thing, where He said He gave dominion to Adam and Eve. And we really don't truly walk in that dominion until we're in agreement, until we're in unity.
I agree. And if you carry it all the way through the New Testament, that's why unity is so important to God. When we talk as believers, mm-hmm. As a church body, as a local church, or the universal church, wherever there is unity, that's really where there is kingdom dominion, mm-hmm. Because it's in that place that God commands a blessing, mm-hmm. wherever there's that unity.
Now let me take it a little bit different, spin a little bit this way now. You as a worship leader, I'm sure you notice that as a corporate setting, when we can come together in unity, just like what we were talking about, mm-hmm. and in agreement, there's a whole different dynamic there than when it's just, say, one person trying to worship the Lord. Let's talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
From one person or from...
Yeah, one person where there's a single person worshiping versus, let's say, where there's a corporate, where people are coming together in a corporate unity.
Yeah, well, corporate. I mean, I enjoy the corporate thing because I mean, I think it brings a lot of things together for a lot of people. You encouraging, you building up together. There's one voice, there's one declaration going on. in experiencing God together as a people. But from an individual standpoint, that's where I think sometimes it becomes a challenge, because it's more of a lifestyle that you have to apply as an individual, as a believer, that this is who you are, that you're a worshiper of God, and it's got nothing to do with a song. I mean, we're talking about a song you sing, or what you're eating or reading or whatever, but it's more about a lifestyle in understanding that this is who you are in connection with your relationship or your faith is with God. Mm-hmm. It's being a worshiper of the living God, more than just being a person who's either affiliated with a denomination or anything, but you're a worshiper of God first, more than the other attachments that you have in your life. Mm-hmm. So it's that application, I believe, that you have to understand or allow yourself to walk in having that kind of relationship with God.
Now, and obviously Adam and Eve had that perfect relationship with God until they chose to disobey Him.
Well, and I think the reason is because really a worshiper comes out of a lifestyle of obedience. Mm-hmm. The first in the Bible, whenever you're reading the Bible, it's called the law of first mention. Mm. And the first place that worship is really mentioned in God's Word is when Abraham took Isaac up into the mountain to sacrifice him. Mm-hmm. So they weren't going up there to sing songs.
Exactly.
No. They were going up there to be obedient. Mm. And so if you take that as the law of first mention, and understanding that man was created to worship God, to glorify God, that was our purpose in life. So as long as they were obedient to the Lord in the garden, they were worshiping. Mm-hmm. So what happened when they chose to be disobedient? They stopped worshiping.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they stopped worshiping, there was that breaking.
There's the
breaking of the fellowship
sure.
and relationship, and it goes on, and we all know what took place from there, and we're still dealing with it today,
sure
so to speak. But it's interesting that as you read through some of the things as I've been studying this out, is that God created this place called the Garden of Eden, which, from what I can take from what I've read in the Bible, was a place where everything that man ever needed had been placed in there. And in fact, it told him that He gave him everything so he could replenish the earth. Mm-hmm. So that means the area outside of the Garden of Eden, something had happened to it. And as we read through the Bible, we see that Satan fell from heaven. He was cast down to earth. So that was out in his realm where things were going on. But God created this place for man to walk in perfect worship and fellowship with God, and then placed. In fact, it even goes as far as to say that there was no rain in there until man was in the garden. The plants were placed because He was looking for somebody to take ownership, or I guess it would be stewardship over what God had placed in the garden. And then His command to us was to be fruitful, to have dominion, be fruitful, multiply, and to replenish the earth. So from that, I have to draw from that He placed man inside a garden, walking in perfect communion with God. In other words, knowing what he was supposed to do, worshiping Him, being obedient, had placed within him all the abilities. He said He created us in His image and likeness, so that means we're supposed to be like Him. And placed everything we needed to take from inside the garden out to earth where there was needs, where there was areas that needed to be touched and replenished. And that's, I believe, in that setting, that's what was supposed to be taking place there.